और यार टाई पहन लेते हैं। सुनो स्थिति, एक टाई ले आ जल्दी से, टाई मार देते जल्दी से।
Very good morning, everyone, to the day 2 of 6th edition for Knox Virtual Conference, Expo and Awards. Yesterday, we started with the 6th edition of the subject that we are doing from the past 5 years from the inception, where we have done it wonderfully with Ministry of Power, Ministry of Environment, and support of other common ministries. And yesterday, we started with a wonderful note from senior leaders and experts from the industry and on their thoughts on various subjects, which revolves around controlling SOx NOx emissions and similar subjects to that. Now, here we are going to talk about the 6th edition, like I discussed yesterday as well, that what we are talking about CEMS. What you're talking about is emissions control. What you're talking about is sustainability. What we are talking about are environmental goals. Future is here. What we can see and what we have seen in the past. Apologies for a little glitch. Well, welcome again to all the panelists here and to all the attendees who have joined us for the 6th edition. Yesterday we spoke about the same thing, where we were trying to understand what's the current scenario, why we are talking about SOx NOx at this stage at 2021, why we are talking about compliance, why we are talking about emissions norms. Yesterday we discussed about why FGD is important, why implementation of certain emissions norm is important, how industry and government can work hand in hand to achieve the desired results, to achieve the desired mission that we are aiming in the coming future. Today, we have a wonderful lineup of senior experts and leaders from the industry who have joined us. We have Dr. P.B. Rastogi, we have Mr. Sandeep Srivastava, we have Mr. Bijan Mishra joining us for the very first panel discussion. I would request all the dignitaries to please turn on their video and audio so that we can have you all on stage. Good morning, Dr. Rastogi. Good morning, Mr. Srivastava.
Good morning.
Morning.
I request Mr. Mishra to turn on his video and unmute. By the time Mr. Mishra starts that, today I want to throw a light before we start with the panel that today we are going to talk about, are we in line with Mission 2022? What are we doing to achieve environment and sustainability goals that we are talking about? What are we doing? We started in 2015 when Ministry took their intervention and came up with new norms, gave us a deadline, and gave us some amazing emissions control standards and regulations to fulfill so that we can achieve to a certain extent. Today we are going to talk about that. Before we start with the panel, we start with the points of discussion. I would request each dignitary to please share their opening remarks on the subject so that we can move further to the topic. I would like to start with Dr. Rastogi.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, there is no doubt about that. In the morning yesterday, we had a wonderful session about the roadmap for implementing the emission norms for thermal power station and so many other topics also, installation of FGD and then control of SOx and NOx emissions. And today this session is, I think, almost wonderful, rather I will say, that we will talk about the Mission 2020. I don't know how many persons in the participant category know about Mission 2020. And then we will talk about the Sustainable Development Goals. That is also another new topic for thermal power plants. So it's a really wonderful session, updating knowledge on the subject. So So let us start with that thing. That first, I think I will prefer to clarify about the Mission 2020 so that people their fundamental is clear what it is Mission 2022. It is not like Mission Afghanistan, Mission 31 or something like that. So it is Mission 2020. That was the Copenhagen Pledge that we started with, where we said that the base year will be 2005 and target year will be 2020. That's why it is called Mission 2020. And what plus we have taken in that one, that India will endeavor to reduce the emission intensity of its GDP by 20 to 25% by 2020 in comparison to 2005 level. So because of this, it became Vision 2020. But the limit was 20 to 25%. But later on, we had a Paris Agreement, COP21, that was in November 2016, where we modified this, whatever we said in this Copenhagen Place, that now reduce emissions intensity of GDP by 30 to 35%. So mind you, now this 20 to 25% became 30 to 30, 33 to 35% by 2030. So it will be better now to call it Mission 2030, I think, from the 2005 level. And second thing, what we added in this Paris Agreement, that we should create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide by adding additional forest and tree cover. So that's the new addition in this category. And third thing was that 40% of cumulative electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel based energy resources by 2030. So that's another third thing which was added. So two new things were added. First thing, additional forest cover and tree, and third thing was regarding 40% use of renewable energy. So that was something new. Now we should think about that. That now 2030 it is 22 only 8 years more are there. But what is the status in India? And yesterday I was walking the Economic Times, and Mr. Rajendra R.K. Singh, Minister of Renewable Energy, he gave some information. It was really wonderful. He said that India has achieved 28% emission reduction over 2005 levels. Most up-to-date information that we have achieved 28%. We were supposed to achieve 33 to 35%, and that too by 2030. And that we have almost we are near that 128% in 2022 only. So 21 only. So you can imagine how or what kind of progress we are making. It's really wonderful, amazing. Now, second category was the additional forestry cover. That is a slow process that takes time. Growing trees, it takes time. Now, third thing was regarding non-fossil fuel. 40% we have to make use of, and it was really surprising that at present we are at 28% that we are using non-fossil fuel. 28%. So that was really wonderful to know that we are doing really excellent progress in our own field. So there is no doubt that we will be lagging behind in 2030. So I think that was the most up-to-date information that I have. So, and that information, most current information that I collected yesterday from Economic Times, and Mr. Our Minister, he has conveyed these things. So second thing was regarding sustainable development goals. I won't be taking, I won't be going in much deep because otherwise it's such a topic, climate change and sustainable development goals, that I can speak more and more and more and more, and I can take a whole 1 hour in this thing. So I have to limit myself. So second thing was regarding uh, sustainable development goals. So not many thermal power plants, they may not be knowing about that thing, that thermal power plant, that sustainable development goals, how they are applicable to them, what they are supposed to do. Although cement plant, they have done a wonderful thing in this direction, because every year they are preparing sustainability report. Every year they are assessing point wise each and everything. So, but I came to know that thermal power plants, out of 17 sustainable development goals, 77 are directly linked to them. So they have to concentrate on those goals, and they are no poverty, number one. Number third is the good health. Fourth is the quality education. Fifth is the gender equality. Sixth is the clean water. Seventh is the affordable and clean energy. Eighth is the economic growth, and ninth is the industry, innovation and infrastructure. 12th is the responsible construction. 13th is the climate action, and 14th is the life below water. So there are 14 which are directly related to the uh, sustainable development goals. These are directly related to the thermal power plant. But at the same time, again, I was going through some big report of Tata Power because they have done an excellent job in this direction. And since last 100 years, they are totally involved in the sustainability. And mind you, they have covered such a wonderful things that I think out of 17, they have covered 14 category of sustainable development goals, and they are fully devoted in this direction. And they have covered health, nutrition, education, water and sanitation, livelihood, social justice, inclusion, skilling, migration, urbanization, environment, digital literacy, craft, culture, and disaster management. So they are doing really excellent work. I have seen some of their presentation also, because in another organization where I am a chairman and NGO, they have presented some of the papers over there at their projects, and really it was excellent. So now we have to see that how seriously we can implement the sustainable development goals. I think we will hear from Mr. Bijan Mishra. He was formerly at Reliance Power. He will tell more about these things, how they have implemented sustainable development goals. And now I think I should stop here because other things will come up during discussion. So this briefing should be all right, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely, Dr. Stogi. That was a wonderful start, and I will request the same to Mr. Srivastava also. Actually, Mr. Mishra is facing little issue to join as audio and video, so he's trying to fix that, and he'll be with us any minute. And I would request Mr. Srivastava to please share his opening remarks.
Okay. So good morning. I think I am okay in terms of you're able to hear me well. Akshay, is it okay? Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good morning, and it is really a pleasure to be here. And thanks, Mission Energy Foundation, for having me here, and also have the esteemed fellow panelists. So good morning, everyone. So in terms of Dr. Rastogi has given very nice overview about the Mission 20, and I would say Mission 2030 also now. So on the decarbonization side, and also on the Government of India's roadmap and the NDCs which have been committed in the Paris Declaration. So those are there, and I would like to take a kind of a or give an overview about the Aditya Birla group companies and what they have been doing. Not in detail, first of all, just maybe just to say that we are into as a, being a global conglomerate and also into very diversified group, having the sectors like the steel, sorry, not the steel, but the cement and metal sector. When it comes, it is the aluminum and copper. They are there. Then we are into this, the chemicals. We are into the textiles, retail, and so on. And apart from the main products, we also have got a large base of the captive power plants. So Hindalco has got more than 3,000 megawatt, and also Ultratech has got more than 1,000 megawatt. And similarly, chemicals also have got their own captive power plants. So there's a lot of that is why a kind of a carbon challenge we have, and also we have the other kind of gases emissions, as there is a theme of this particular conference on the SO2 and NOx, and I would add into the dust also. And many of these decarbonization strategies which we have also having the benefits of, um, I would say, the cascading effects onto the NOx, SOx, and dust, and also things like water, which is there. If you have been replacing many of these coal-based capacities into the renewable energy, or going for hydrogen tomorrow, or maybe the bioenergy, and clear cut having the focus shifting from various kinds of emissions which are there and which could be avoided because of the having the alternative sources of energy. So that is the focus in all our businesses now. And so though there is a government, India doesn't have any kind of a obligation for the corporate sector as such, not having any kind of the internal carbon price or any such thing also, but we have got the internal carbon price for all of our businesses, and to give a push onto the cleaner technologies, to give a push onto the approaches for going for replacement of the captive power plants which are there coal based. So those kind of things which are there. And as far as the SDG goes, there are many SDGs which are there having a direct bearing. So if we have been working in the community, definitely the social related and taking the health and safety, the social SDGs they have been taking care. And on the environment side, almost all the SDGs we have got, including the uh, climate change and water and sanitation and so on. But one SDG, that is the SDG 12, the responsible consumption, as you know, that having a bearing into as many as 10 other SDGs. So if we have been taking the route of the circularity, if we have been taking the route of the resource efficiency, we would be addressing to many of the other SDGs also, and that is a clear-cut focus in our various businesses. So this would be good, to dwell on further. We have got our integrated reports of Indalco and also of Ultratech and other businesses. They bring out the kind of a direct correlation with the SDGs and the kind of initiatives they have been taking. And we also have got a group level sustainability report, which gives in nutshell and summing up of the various initiatives of various of our businesses. So those could be quite handy. So I just stop here and then would wait for the other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Srivastava, for your opening remarks as well. Now, by the time we have Mr. Mishra join us, I would really like to start the session. That we have received few questions from the survey we ran, and I would request our esteemed panelists to share their thoughts on the same. So, I would like to start with more of a straightforward but a very standard question that I would request Mr. Srivastava to respond at the first place. That yes, we talk about all the technologies and we talk about the best practices. At the current time, at the current situation, it's more of a thing related to sustainability. What exactly does sustainability mean to your business in this era? I'm not being specific saying post COVID, but at this current era where the world has changed, we are talking out loud about it and doing things to combat that. So, what exactly does sustainability mean to your business?
Right. Right. So, the sustainability is a very wide spectrum when we talk about the corporate sustainability, especially, which actually we some of these things we have discussed, just in the beginning itself, and talking about resource efficiency, talking about the reducing our environmental footprints, whether it is in the form of the emissions or the effluents or the waste we generate. Um, then we go on to the supply chain, talking about the various of our business associates. So we have to work in partnership with them, and they could be suppliers, transporters, contractors, and so on and so forth. The community is another very vital stakeholder which we have to engage with. Also providing a conducive environment to work for workers, which is safe and also having not kind of emissions, noise in those scenarios, and more innovative in terms of our thinking and our working, product stewardship. We talk about decarbonization, so which is also one of the levers I consider today, decarbonization especially, which is not only though it is targeted for carbon, but it is also having so many collateral benefits there to say, and a number of them, right from our mining areas. So here you have got one scenario where the renewable energy, where you need not to dig out those materials for coal or things like limestone for cement, and you are replacing some of the waste materials like the Dr. Rastogi was mentioning about the cement sector. And here it exemplifies about various kinds of win-win scenarios. where the waste materials like fly ash and slag generated respectively from power plants and the steel plants are getting used and replacement of the clinker and the limestone in turn. Then you are replacing the fuel by alternative raw material and fuel materials. So that is also the industrial waste which has been coming in. So when you see a cement plant today, by the way, I was working in a cement industry for about 11 years before that, and it is not only making cement. You have got big waste management platforms there. You have got a big biomass shed there where you have got the biomass coming in. You have tire chips. You have various kind of automobile sludge and the paint sludge, and I mean you name it. The refinery sludge, pharmaceutical waste, all kinds of waste they've been heading there in terms of getting a use in the kilns for replacement of the coal. So this is something which is there, and as I said, a big yard for the fly ash and the silos for that you will find the slag and so on. Pet coke is another thing which is another material from the the petrochemical industry coming in. Though it is there only for use in the kilns, which is allowed by the notification of MOEF, and not into the power plants because of the sulfur emissions which is there so high in that. So these are some of the things which, in a way, is telling that the sustainability is almost like you are looking into the business in a 360-degree, where you have been having more of an inclusiveness, where you have more innovation into many things which are there. And that ranges from the product innovation, we have the process innovation, we have the technology innovation, we have even the innovation into the community programs which are there for livelihood for the community, and working with the suppliers for having the the sustainable procurement policy, and then so that when you set certain standards for yourself, you would like also that your business partners would also be meeting some of these standards. So these are some of the things I wonder.
I'm sure Dr. Rastogi will agree to the point of policies and innovation that's happening and how corporates and industries are moving forward to that. And to that, I do have a follow up question for Dr. Rastogi that a set of delegates have asked how can India advance in the controlling SOx NOx emissions in the post COVID world? Right now, what we just requested Mr. Shrivastava to talk about what why sustainability is important, where he shared his thoughts on technology side, on innovation side, on how stakeholders are working towards it. Do you think anything will change in post COVID, and do you think we are advancing in terms of this? Because COVID helped us in a certain way to reduce a certain level of emissions. So, do you think it's a plus factor, or we'll be advancing the technology to control?
Hmm, I don't know. It will be better if an industry person tells that what are the problems they are facing during the COVID-19 and how they have improved on during that time and how they have managed the show during that time. So I think that will be much better if the industry people they tell their personal experience. I think Mr. Srivastava is the right person
Yeah.
working in the thermal power stations and dealing with the COVID-19 also. Almost 1.5 year, all the industry they have suffered like anything, and they have changed. But one thing is good that during this period they have changed themselves and they have gone more toward the digitization. Instead of the manpower, they have relied more on the digitization so that they don't come in touch with the manpower. So I think that is the major change that I have seen in many industries that directly deal with the digitization. COVID impact is gone, or otherwise they have been badly impacted during this 1.5 year. There is no doubt about that thing. So it has, yeah, Mr. Srivastava, do you have practical experience because you are dealing with the industry also and you have dealt with the COVID-19 atmosphere also. So what was your industry was doing during that period?
Yeah, yeah. So let me take a kind of a look onto the COVID scenario, where the lockdowns have been there, and where we have got the maybe at least two or three generations of us has got the first hand feel of about what is a good environment, because we are living into the cities. Maybe I'm not talking about only metropolitan cities. Maybe second or third rank city or level cities. Also, we have got this experience that there is a much more than the kind of life we have been living. So when we hear only about the things like the carbon emissions during that time has gone to the level of the just after World War II of 1945, that also is clearly seen, where the things are much cleaner and greener. And that is also something that everyone appreciated. One thing, while no one likes this kind of scenario to be there in the lockdown for a longer period of time, but one appreciated about the quality of environment there, where the you have got, especially we live in city of Delhi, and the what is the ambient air quality index here, almost like more than 200, 250, or maybe at times reaching into 500 or 600 at that time. And here we have got, without any rains and all that, it is much better. And so everyone realized one thing, that the kind of growth path which we have been taking may not be the best one, and can we modify that. And this is also applicable for things like the decarbonization strategies which we have been saying, or the power generation which has been there, mainly coal based. And then we can see that yeah, there are perils in terms of only following that path. So this is one thing. What we were doing as an industry, of course, in the lockdown time, and especially the first lockdown, most of our plants were shut down, except that maybe a fertilizer plant and some of the plants which we have been producing those chemicals which are used for disinfection and sterilization and all. So cement plants and the metal industry, all units have been closed down, and slowly. But the only thing is that thereafter, when we have come back into the operation, there was a new feeling and more of a resilience, that because no one had gone seen, especially in these kind of generations, at least two or three generations, this kind of scenario. I think not many people have witnessed, those who are here today, of 1919 kind of a the epidemic pandemic that was there. So this is a new feeling, and this is a kind of a feeling that yes, we should do more for the environment. And can we make some changes into the way we have been doing things. And herein I would like to quote the SOX and NOx preparedness, because there were no SOX and NOx standards in, I would say, for cement industry, and prior to 2014. The first time the MOEF notification came in 2014 August, right? And then it was got modified in 2016. And for power plants also, the first, except the gas-based power plants, NOx-related standards were there, but coal-based power plants, we didn't have the NOx standards and SOx standard. Only the SOx-related better dispersion was considered to be the option. So I remember when I used to work in Central Pollution Control Board, that Vindhyachal power plant was given in early 90s, and Dr. Rastogi may also be remembering those, that a kind of a space is to be provided for FGD. And herein, this particular notification came in 2015. Within 2 years' time, we have to go for all kinds of the technologies there. This is another matter, that was 2 years was a too short span of a time to do all this. And I would like to flag some of the problems there, and especially which I experienced while working in a cement industry, which also faced, as I said, in 2014 the rules came, that the first time SNCR we have been talking about for NOx control, and there were no suppliers of SNCR technology. Then a lot of, because you have got 200 odd cement industry, and hundreds of units to be supplied the SNCR. And then the innovation thing comes. So before SNCR, can we do more of a process modification and modernization, and having low NOx burners and those kind of thing, before then going for the end of the pipe technology. So those things got the more of innovation. Many of our plants could do it today, run it without having a SNCR equipped. So because of the meeting the 600 or 800 norms of NOx. Similarly, the things for the SOx also, for the captive power plants, and especially those CFB, CFBC boilers, where there is a already inherent advantage of having the bed where you can put in limestone and all that for SOx emission absorption, so that you have got to meeting the norms of SOx. And the cement industry especially kills their burning coal and all, but then there's not of much of SOx problem. So these are the kind of thing. The technology when it came, a lot of rush for that. Then ammonia is the ingredient used in SNCR. So for rush for ammonia, then providing it. So then where to source the ammonia? Then you need to have the trained manpowers for to be there employed there, and you don't have so many. So there was a lot of teething problems, and it took a while in terms of getting things stabilized. And similarly, kind of thing in power plant also, when they have come out with the FGD, and you may be knowing the many people must know the figures, but I think this is more than a lakh crore of rupees, the kind of investment which is going to go, and then many have now done it. And some of our plants in ABG group also, we have been going for FGD technology, which is expensive, and also having the other things like water requirement. Then you have the gypsum which is produced, what to do with that, the product. So number of these problems we have to grapple with. So only thing is that whenever any such thing comes, you need to have got a process, and you need to have a time within which the things get stabilized. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Srivastava. With your wonderful industry background, you have clarified each and everything wonderfully. I could not have done. So that's a very great thing. Okay.
That's actually very well quoted, and to be honest, you have covered my next three questions. So this was wonderfully done and wonderfully quoted. And so I have a question here. When Dr. Rastogi said that COVID was not that good for the industry because it was all shut, you said it was a new thing that hasn't happened in the past 100 years. And so here's the question to Dr. Rastogi. We are talking about a certain deadline, we are talking about a certain timeline, but this COVID hit us bad. It wasn't in the hands of industries, it wasn't in the hand of government or everything. So how do you think? So this has paced up India digitally, but this has slowed us in the ground reality when we talk about mechanical, when we talk about power plants, when we talk about utility side. So do you think there will be any change? There will be what we were supposed to achieve in 5 years has gone way beyond that, or we will hit the same target at the same time? What are your thoughts on that?
Actually, COVID-19 forced industrialists to think in from a different way, because it is like sometimes they have also adopted it very quickly. And that was something like changing attitude, because when the manpower is not coming to industry, they have to think how to run the show. They may lock down, they may close down industry, but the question is no. At the same time, they have to pay to them salary. We know they are not coming, or they have to keep them busy, or if they are not coming, then how to run the show, how to do the business. So that's why they have changed their mentality, that go more and more for digitization, and other adopt think the same thing from another angle also, and that has benefited industry a lot. So I think that is the experience that I had, and plus during that period there was less activity, so there was a neat and clean environment. Everybody was reporting our environment is clean, our water is clean, and there is less solid waste disposal. So that was the thing. COVID-19 something different thing. So I don't know what
So
else.
here's a thought, Dr. Stogi, that when you talk about this, and I absolutely agree with you on certain points, which are basically the ground reality. And this is not happening only with the power sector, but in most of the industries. But power is the backbone, is the core sector of our country. How crucial do you think is the next question we received? How crucial do you think is the role of government here? I'm talking about authorities, I'm talking about ministries, regulators, policymakers, not only working hand in hand, but supporting the entire industry, supporting the entire sector. How crucial is that? Because right now, they know their corporate style, they know their workflow, they know the process. It's coming from the majority of the delegates, but this is the kind of question they want to understand how they can get the support from the regulators, from the ministries, from the government. What are your thoughts?
I don't think if regulator has provided any finances or any activity for that thing, because that industrial in charge, whoever is the project in charge, they have to take their decision, or the concerned ministry like Ministry of Power, they have to take the decision regarding how to run the show. And I don't think anybody else can take a decision regarding this, because it is the health issue, it is the concerned ministry issue, and they have to think seriously how to run the show. I don't think if anybody else can help, and that's I think anywhere everybody has done that thing also. That project in charge, they have taken independent decisions about that thing, how to go about it, because this is something new, thinking from a different angle. So I think that is the only way that they have done that thing. Regulator, they will say that more and more update your hospitals and update your vaccination, update your activities. That's the only thing that they can encourage. Otherwise, project in charge has to take their decision about their own industry, that how to run the show.
But mainly, Dr. Rastogi, here we understand that regulators will give new health standards or new health norms. When you said it's mainly here power in charge or the project in charge have to take the decisions. Here, mainly the question is that they'll be ready with all the decision making. They'll be ready to do that. But here we are talking about the guiding light. Here we're talking about the guiding force, the top of the ladder, where the main question here is, when we say how crucial is the role, should we expect any kind of a support and any kind of a thing where we feel that the government is backing the entire core sector, the entire backbone sector? And especially when you say Ministry of Power, we know for the fact that every plant do have involvement of Ministry of Power, Ministry of Environment, because CPCB is directly involved with the data when we talk about SOX, NOx. So it's more than one ministry getting involved. So do you think that's where the question comes? How crucial is government? Let's say you're the former advisor and you're currently working with government as well. So how government can support, how ministry can support, how the entire authorities can support to ease there, because making hospitals or increasing the health standards is absolutely fair, is the standard health standards that every industry have to follow. But how you as an authority or as a government can support the sector, can support the power, is a question.
Actually, government doesn't make any specific guideline or standard for particular industry or something. They have to think from the national angle. So whatever guideline they develop and whatever standard they create for the whole country, and that is applicable for each and everybody. So it's not a project specific or industry specific or anything. And everybody has to implement that thing. I mean, nobody escape. That's the thing. I mean, it's a common standard, common guideline for all over the country, for all the persons. And they cannot make any specific guideline or specific that thing. Specific guideline, further specific guideline, they can be created by their project in charge, keeping the situation in mind at the site. So they can create specials, but otherwise it's a common guideline for the whole country for all the persons to be applied with. But the special conditions, they can be created by the project in charge depending on the situation in that particular area. Yeah.
I will agree to that. And so there's another saying that industries adopting. So here we are going a little off the track to understand the next question. That expert says, and the majority of the experts says that industries adopting sustainability and following emission norms are an integral pillars to the journey of the cleaner future. We agree to that. This is the best thing that we can do. I'm sure Mr. Srivastava will also agree that yes, if we adopt sustainability, if we follow norms, it's actually a journey to the cleaner, greener, healthier future. But are we in the right direction? Are we in the right direction in the next 10 years, in the coming years? And how are we coping in the entire world market when we say about the entire thing? Because honestly, we are on top, not in a good way, but in a bad way. We are on top in all statistics, in all reports, in all records. Whenever we see, we are there in a bad list, but yes, we are there. So just want to understand your thoughts on this.
Yeah, Nasha Clean Energy is a wonderful program, and India is doing really wonderfully, very good. There is no doubt about that thing. And this is the future, because Nasha, I think there is another program, that is a Nasha Clean Energy program, that is going on. Mm, Yeah. Now we have to. Now we are waiting for that Stockholm conference, which is now postponed because of the COVID-19, where we are going to talk about the negative emissions. So just see that we are going further, negative zero emission. That you have to think more and more about the zero emission now. So whole world is thinking in that direction that the energy provided should be very clean energy only. And the day by day you have to reduce coal, oil and gas and all that thing. Also that cannot be made zero as on today. But the question is that you have to reduce these sources which are polluting in nature. And you have to go more and more for hydrogen energy, more and more for the solar, wind energy, or hydro energy, or hydrogen energy, and nuclear is also going on but at a slow pace, but it is also going on. There is no doubt about that thing. So this is the main emphasis all over the world, and I think I have some data also somewhere that how much money who has spent in this direction in whether it's in Norway or whether it's in Europe or whether it's in America, how much money they have spent so far. Somewhere I have data also on that thing. Uh, but that has no value. The thing is that everybody is serious about that thing and everybody is spending money and everybody is willing to provide clean energy. Everybody is willing to stop this emission level. So I think that is the thing. That is the current theme that is going on. And that's why they are talking about the negative zero emission also, that how can we come to the zero emission. I don't know. Let us see the discussion that was supposed to be discussed at the Glasgow during 1st to 12th November, but I think that conference is postponed due to COVID reason. So let us see. But this is the biggest emphasis that we have. That's how to reduce emissions. In India also, I think yesterday I was going through some data that more than 50% we are generating through the energy, this renewable source of energy, and less than 40% we are generating today from coal thermal power stations. So you see, coal was at the top, which has come down, and renewable energy was at the lowest level, that has gone up. So in future, if we have this speed, because you know that how much target we have, 450 gigawatt. So this renewable energy is going up, and coal is coming down. So that we have to keep in mind, and it has to come down because everybody is watching towards India. And this is a really wonderful progress. What we were supposed to achieve in 2030, we are waiting for achieving in 2022 only. That's a wonderful progress. I don't have words to praise that thing, but it's really remarkable. Yeah,
That's a wonderful thought, and that's where we got our answer when we said that are we going to delay the progress or we are going to achieve on time? And you rightly said that we'll be achieving it on time. Now, I have the next question for Mr. Srivastav, where we talk about green businesses. This is kind of a thing that we are seeing in the recent years, that we have seen the involvement of green businesses, how they're connecting with the sustainability angle, how they're supporting the cause of environment. So here the next question for you, that what is the role of establishment and implementation of green businesses and achieve the desired missions and goals what you're talking about here?
Right. So first of all, what is a green business? So the kind of thing which we have discussed is a part of our sustainability or part of the SDG goals which have to be met by the countries, by the states, but it's not possible without the, I would say, in partnership or where there's a contribution of the industry is there, where the industry is also at times the source of generation of many of these externalities which we talk about. And until unless the where the problem is and we are not addressing there, we are not able to meet the goals. So the green business today, when we talk about, they have been imbibing those principles, practices, and the norms which are there. And when Dr. Rastogi was mentioning about the decarbonization and all, so these strategies are in a way have been, reflecting onto several kind of a, having bearing onto things which we have discussed. But what is happening today? There are two again categories when we talk about only emissions. One is that which is regulated by a law, and we have got all these SOx, NOx, dust today. For most of the industry, they've been governed by a notification or other. Then you have got the entire this GHG emissions, which is in a way the industry has realized that this is there in their own interest. This makes more of a business sense. I mean, I will just talk about just yesterday. We had almost a whole day session by various speakers, right from the CEO of the Niti Aayog, Mr. Amitabh Kant, to the Dr. Mashalkar, to various of our international experts talking about the hydrogen, talking about the CCUS. No, there is no there is no requirement as such for going for CCUS by any regulation. Similarly, hydrogen mission is there announced by the government, and we have to just to see the contours of that and how it will work and so on. But then here is the industry wants to participate in those discussion and wants to participate in terms of imbibing those things there. Talking about the bioenergy, can we have got those things used in the plants? And we have got the biomass based power plants also there. But then when it comes to the bio CNG, biodiesel, biopetrol, and even the things like biogas, now the policy of the government, policy of the state, they also come into play in terms of enabling those things to be done by the industry many times. So where the bottlenecks are there, where there is a pain points can be addressed, and then one can move forward. So similarly, waste entire the regime of the waste management, whether the hazardous waste, non-hazardous waste today, having many policies like RDF, municipal solid waste going into industry, whether we have those enabling policies. So the policy has got a big role to play. Then we have got the industry has got to take proactive steps in terms of something which is not mandatory, and we want to do it. And I'm sure that when the cement industry is doing the fly ash and slag utilization, it's not entirely for I would say environment's sake first of all. It is making a lot of business sense also in terms of doing it. And the entire decarbonization, maybe the hydrogen price today may be very exorbitant, and one can see that goes down and maybe becoming just like the solar power or the wind power today is, as compared to maybe 7 or 10 years back. And we can have a parity on the hydrogen prices tomorrow, and you won't see any industry not taking up. So the thing is that one has to work in terms of having this partnership, in terms of if the government of India tomorrow suppose has got a net zero goal of 2050 or 60 even. There are many things which are there, including the mitigation part and also the afforestation part, which has been mentioned about 2.5 billion to 3 billion tons we want to absorb. Now, what is that? The roadmap, how we will meet that 3 billion tons of the carbon dioxide to be absorbed. So, the adaptation part, which is very much also part of our NDC, and apart from the mitigation. So, these kind of things, once are there, you will see that the uptake of these things becomes faster by industry, and they would be today more on the greener side. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope this addresses the question.
Absolutely. And Dr. Stogi, do you have any thoughts on this where Mr. Srivastava just spoke about?
Uh, yeah, one thing is very good because during last 30 years we used to visit so many plants and so many all over the country, and from Lucknow, UP, Uttarakhand, and Rajasthan. And he has to cover from Chandigarh, Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, Himachal. And for 10 years, I was in Delhi, so from Delhi covering the whole all plant. So that was a wonderful experience. Like this, regarding this plantation business that we have to cover 22.5 to 3 billion. How much serious we were 30 years before? Mr. Srivastava is the proof that when we used to go to the site, there were no plants, or maybe 100, 200 plants only. But we started putting condition in our clearance letter that you have to cover 33% plantation on your site. Mean whatever plantation you are seeing in the country or growth of the plantation in the country, it has remarkably increased. They all or most of it is because of the industries only. because of this condition only, where there were 100 or 200 plants, and now there are thousands and lakhs of plants at that site. Because the thing is that to industrialists, you have to convince that if you generate plantation here, you make it a forest here. This is for your benefit. I am sitting in Delhi or Lucknow or somewhere else, but you are staying here only. You are working 24 hours here only, and you are inhaling dust directly. So you have to protect yourself, and this is the way that you can protect. Another thing was very good. Mean he has communicated. They are the businessmen, and they understand the language of money matters only. This should be kept in our mind. When we go to the site or when we talk to them, we should talk about the money matters, how it will benefit you. And until unless you are able to convince them, they are not going to implement the things. So when you go to the site or when you discuss with them, you communicate this thing that okay, and you will instead of this energy, you will use this energy, then it will be cheaper also, and you will get more energy. So naturally, it will be beneficial for your project. So I mean that's the thing. Plus, like coal-based thermal power station, SPM is coming, and you are inhaling here at the site. The question is, if you can reduce this kind of emissions and you have a clean energy, then naturally you will not be inhaling that thing, because whatever emission level is there, and if you are staying there for like you are doing job, so you are staying there 24 hours and you are staying there for 20, 30 years, naturally you will develop something after some period, because continuous inhalation means some lung disease has to be there. And if the quantities come, SPM level is less, or the energy is clean, and you are working there in a wonderful environment, clean environment, naturally you won't be having that disease. You will be an active person. You will not be a sick person. So that thing, you have to tell each and everyone why it is necessary. And when you can convince a person that why it is necessary, naturally, because everybody is selfish, you have to think in that way. And everybody, and I just say that thing. Everybody should be selfish also. Think about yourself. Don't think about anything else. How can you protect yourself from emissions or from anything else? Go forget about the business, whether it is costly or it is cheaper or something. But you have to protect yourself. You have to think about your family affairs. You have to think about so many other things also. So that's the thing. Plus minus, it's a must to understand. It is cheaper, it is costlier, if it is cheaper or it is beneficial. Plus points that you have to convey to the project opponent, that these are the plus points if you do this thing in this way. Like saying about the plantation, if you do plantation at your site, you will be protected. You will be staying in a forest area. Otherwise, you are directly inhaling dust. You are directly inhaling all whatever is at the site. So protect yourself, and at least you will get the benefit also. It will become a wonderful heaven for you. You have to work here. You cannot move to Delhi or any other place. So plus and minus point you have to convey, whether it's energy or whether it's a plantation or whether any activity, whatever you do, you have to tell the plus and minus, and they understand this thing very well. You can see that dramatic change. Now, means cement plant, what he is talking about, flash they are using at the site. Now, as a fuel, they are using hazardous oil and gas. Otherwise, you will be disposing it somewhere else, and you will be affecting somebody else. So they are using over there, or waste material, which otherwise you will dump here, there, and you will be creating a problem for others. So now they are using in their own kiln, in their own cement plant. So just think from that angle how beneficial it is, because that mindset that was not before. In say 10, 20 years, that was not the mindset before. But when they realize that yes, they can use that thing and it can make environment clean, plus all the waste material that will go to a particular place, so there will not be any health impact. So that's a wonderful thing. Over the period of time, project authorities have thought very clearly what is beneficial, what is harmful, and they are doing what really I am surprised to see a journey of last 30, 33 years. That's how dramatic change is there in the industry. I mean, yesterday I gave the example of cement plant or thermal power plant. Then we used to go with the white shirt and used to come with the black shirt or split with black thing. But over the period of time, or 150 milligram per cubic meter, over the period of time it changed to 50 milligram per cubic meter. And now we go with the white shirt and come with the white shirt. Or don't do this. When we go there, we have to ask them whether your project is running or not. And they will say, sir, it is running. No, no, I don't believe you. Last time I came, it was so black. Now it is totally white. I mean, I don't see anything. Okay, forget about the guest house. Let us go to the control room first. And you can check directly over there what is the emission level. Is that right, Mr. Srivastava?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What you said is correct. Absolutely correct.
That is the role of the regulator.
What you say? Yeah.
That's
Things
the
have
role of the
changed.
regulator. You
Yeah.
keep on checking also. People think from a different angle that people go for the side, they enjoy, they have a good time. No, that's okay. But you have a discussion. You talk to them. Oh, it's a wonderful thing now. I was not believing you that the project is running or not running. Now it is working. Oh, you are able to achieve 30, 40 milligram, but we have
Yeah.
made a condition for 50. But then we will not do it 30, 40 because over the period of time plant become old, and then you will have a little hair level also, so keep some breathing space in between. So that's a dramatic change. Go to the site and see all that thing yourself. What was there 30, 40 years before, now what is there now. Then you
Yeah.
have to ask them, why do you do so? When a project authority, when somebody comes from the government, you just close down the plant. This is not the way. And we used to fight with that. So really wonderful, Mr. Mishra. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Srivastava.
Actually,
Wonderful,
can I
wonderful way.
ask?
Yes, 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 Mr. Srivastava,
Yeah, yeah.
please.
As Dr. Rastogi was, dwelling on to the things which have changed. I also remember when there was a, stack monitoring which we need to do 60, 70, 80 meter height of the stack, and you have a porthole which is very high. And now you have the SAMs which are installed, and as you have been saying, that going to the control room and see the values yourself. And this is another thing, the SAMs which have come. So for the stack emission, for ambient air quality, all the data is there. Anywhere you can see it from, because these are to be sent to the CPCB and SPCB servers. So this is another thing. And to your question, Akshay, on the digitization, this is another thing which has come a big role to play. That not only the technology related for control or for doing for even in the pre area where there is going for process modification, etc., but also for the monitoring, which is so important. Otherwise, how we will know that what are the levels? So again, when you have to achieve 30 milligram per meter cube for the dust today for cement, virtually you won't see anything. And the NTPC plant, earlier they used to, and especially for 50 also, you won't be able to see any plume. And now earlier used to be maybe 4 or 5,000. The plume was there, you can
Yeah,
clearly see. And you have got 275 meter of NTPC stack can be seen from maybe miles, that what are the levels. You need not to come to the plant even. Maybe at 6 7 kilometers you can see that what is the level there at that NTPC plant. So this is the change which has
yeah.
been.
Dramatic change, wonderful change. That I will say, we used to encourage these project proponents when they used to come for expert official committee. I was
Yeah.
continuously handling industry for 10 years when I was in Delhi 2005 to 15. And I used to encourage project proponent, hey, come on, if you have any problem at the site, you just ask questions from our experts. They are the expert. They say that we are the expert. So they will solve your problem. They will not charge you any money also here because they are sitting with the government. So ask them and resolve your issues that you are not getting this result in this way. So that was a wonderful experience, but very open environment where you discuss the things and get it done. So that's why you see the dramatic change. I mean, you cannot hide these changes. Everybody appreciates that thing. So good, very good. I'm happy to see all that.
No, absolutely, and I agree too. And you wonderfully put it, and Mr. Srivastava added to that. And in fact, this is kind of a wonderful observation, which is a very core observation that you go white, you come white, and how everything has gone digitized and how things are working so well. Here, I have last question before we move to the closing, and I believe you have answered it a lot, and Dr. Stogi answered it yesterday as well. But here, I would request you to give a perspective that, again, it's more of a question that we cannot ignore, but I'm sure that you both have answered it 1,000 times. That where are we on this the implementation of these technologies? Where are we on in a large scale, in a wider scale? Where are we in the status of adoption and implementation, and how open are we to adapt it? Because we have seen a lot of resistance in adoption, Yesterday, we heard one of the speaker talking about this, that it literally took a while for us to educate the audience to create the unit, to aware the unit before we implement this, before we apply this. So, what are your thoughts? Where are we standing on adaptation, implementation, and execution, and how open are we? I would request Mr. Srivastava to share his thought, then we can move to Dr. Story before we close the session.
Yeah. So, Akshay, I think very pertinent question. And I would say uh, that when we talk about the norms for industry today, and you already had one question earlier also regarding that. So I think we have got, at par with some of the global norms, let me say, especially talking about power plants, talking about cement and chemical industry, and so on and so forth. They are maybe somewhere it is lacking here and there, but maybe they are brought slowly to be at par with, say, European norms. If US norms may be little one step ahead for us, maybe. And Europe also, especially in US, they have got state norms also, like California and all that. They are much more stringent. But so to call it, most of the European norms for various countries, we may be uh, ahead also at times. When we have been dealing with cement industry, we have come across with various norms of NOx and SOx. Some of the countries in Europe also didn't have as stringent norms as they are. So that is one part. Now comes the technology for the control. So the thing is that again we are going back into the same discussion, that can we do something more at in the pre-stream side, where we could do that, the process modification, elimination of things, minimization of fuels and all that. That is in a way is the hierarchical thing, that first of all these things are to be given the preference. The first, the elimination of source, then we have the alternative fuels, especially like power plants and all, and then going further. So the control is the last resort, so to call it. But now, once we are left with no choice but to have the controls, and especially when these are the new norms, I would repeat the same thing, that we need to give time for the technology to be seeped in, to be stabilized. We'll have the enough players to be there in the market to get the technology, to have many of the things which are to be addressed there. Like I would say that you didn't have the enough fabricators for making the ammonia tanks at that time when the SNCR were there, and it's a big tank and which has to be ferried through the tank, the big trolleys and all that. So those kind of logistic issues, and the chemical issue, and then actually making the equipment, the pollution control equipment to be fitted with it. There are a number of these things. Like when SAMs came, we didn't have the enough suppliers of the SAMs, and today also we have been facing the problems because there are very few suppliers. So I talk about the Holcim Group, which I was working earlier. So much before this CPCB has come out with the norms in 2012-13, in 2011, all our plants had got the SAMs installed. And because this is a European company, and they thought that this is the better way of control. Now, when we have got these things installed, we have started facing the problems. Like if there is a analyzer which is going out of order, it is taking very long time in terms of getting replaced. Now, in this scenario, when the alarms are getting generated, you cannot have got 2 or 3 months kind of outage of one analyzer. Right. Similarly, you don't have the experience hands in terms of installation and maintenance and running of those systems which are there, because there are few ones which are there with the supplier, and they cannot have everyone to be catered for that. So these are some of the things which has to be realized when the policy is made, in terms of what would be the total time for its adoption which going to take place, because industry would slowly be doing, but then you have to give enough time. And a classic example, again, I will find in this power sector, where how much time it from 17, now it is almost we are into 21 and 22, and now the time is given 24 and 25. So almost you are 9 years time you are given, and earlier it was thought of only 2 years time. So this is the kind of scenarios. Otherwise, there shouldn't be much problem in terms of adoption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would request you to please move with your closing remarks also before we move it to Dr. Stovi to conclude the session.
Yeah.
Yes, my closing remark would be that we have to see from the point of view of not only regulator. Earlier, I remember in early, late 80s, where the quality of the product was the main thing. Then we thought about the environment, in mid 90s when the EMS, we talk about ISO 14001. Then OSHA's came in 2000. We talk about health and safety. Then social, we started talking about. Then something like sustainability came somewhere in late maybe 2000 when this whole thing has started as sustainability. But one thing is for sure that in an industrial setup or operation, many are looking at us, not just the regulators. We have the community, we have investors, shareholders, and I'm also part of many of these rating agency when we participate there. And I mean, is there they would be just really doing a dissection of your entire operations. So you have got almost a 300 pages questionnaire in the DJSI, Dow Jones Sustainability Index, which we voluntarily file it, and we get a global ranking there. So like when I was there in my previous organization, we got a, just being an Indian company, where one of the top five companies, we number four globally as a cement company. So this gives a kind of a kind of satisfaction, but also tells us that okay, these are the gaps, and you have got at least 26 or 27 parameters against which you have been scanned through. And that is the kind of thing which we have got, because these are coming from several quarters today. So that is why emissions is or the effluent, when we talk about, is very much part of any of the sustainability strategies, because very much part of environment, which is a major component of any sustainability strategy you talk about, right? But having the things like better environment, as the fugitive dust is not there, for workers to be there, and safety also very much closely related with the environment. So these are the things which we have to keep in mind, and that is why we need to work for things like emissions, including the decarbonization, though may not be having any kind of things, but it is having a discussion that should there be anything comes tomorrow, what is our preparedness for that. So these are some of things. Then ZLD is another thing, reuse, recycle of water, because water also we cannot forget, sitting in India, having operations mostly here, that water is another thing which we cannot forget here. And having a bearing again, you have got emission control system, but having the water implication, like the FGD is the classic example. You have got SNCR, but you have to have the aqueous ammonia solution in water. So energy, water, emissions, waste, all these are also very closely related, apart from health and safety, which is there in that. And we have to see, maybe one. I do not like this expression that one stone killing many birds. We do not want to kill birds, but we would like to have one solution which gives, solution to not just one, but many of the problems which are there. So I just close here. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Srivastava, for a wonderful quote at the end for the closing remark. I would request Dr. Rastogi to please share his closing remark and conclude.
Yeah. Over the period of time, this is really a wonderful journey, because now project proponents were forced to think about their own projects, right? Like air emission, how can you control? And they have controlled very well. Now, water, what Mr. Shivata was saying, that we used to put a condition of zero discharge. Zero discharge doesn't mean that no water will go outside. Zero discharge means whatever water you have, you use some of the water in the process itself, treatment and then process. Second, whatever is left out, then you use in some other for other some other purposes. Now third thing, if not, then all the project site they have a big campus, so you can use for greenbelt development. I mean, there should be no water that goes outside your campus, and I think most of the project authority they are complying with that thing. Now similarly, for the solid waste, if you see the steel plant or anything, I mean sludge you use for some purpose of making roads inside a campus, or whatever is coming out your project, or like fly ash that you use inside your campus only. So nothing should go outside. It should be closed loop system. So one has to think seriously about your own campus, about your own product, about your wastage or water or air, so that you don't give any opportunity to outside person to comment about you. That was the main intention. Plus plantation, emphasize more and more plantation so that you have a neat and clean environment. Regarding technology, you have to decide about that thing. Whenever you are starting a new plant, go for the new and best technology. It may be costly, but over the period of time, it will become cheaper because you don't have to treat waste, you don't have to do any other exercise. So just keep that thing in the mind when you are going for the technology. And technology, don't go for all the domestic technology only. You compare it with the international level, that how and best technology and which one is the best technology that you should acquire, that you should install. I think that's the best way of dealing with the technology. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stogi, for sharing your final remarks and closing the session. And on this wonderful note that both gentlemen has shared, we will do the closing of the first session for the sixth edition of Soxnox Virtual Conference Day 2. I would uh, I would like to thank Dr. Rastogi and Mr. Srivastava for joining us early in the morning and sharing their thoughts and perspectives and their experience, which our attendees absolutely were looking forward to learn and hear from such experts. And we are quite rest assured having such experts in the industry will be having a greener future for sure. Thank you so much for joining us again. We'll really look forward for your future participation and future guidance and future support.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Bye.
Moving forward, we are taking a short break here, and after that, we'll be having our technical presentations to for right after the coffee. So grab a cup of coffee or take your plate of breakfast, and let's catch up again at 30 minutes. We are at 11:15. We'll be joined again at 11:45. Thank you so much.
Thank you.